Hull number 80. 80.
Really?
Yep. 80. So now we're looking. Now you're looking 3 years from today. It's kind of unprecedented, really. It's unprecedented, really, to see that success on a boat that large right off the gate. And I remember thinking, like, when 10 got sold and it was like, boom, 10. Then it was 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and now 80. It's like,
I'm just trying to figure out how much I can sell my position for.
Yeah. But
so for everybody that just joined us, everybody's kind of scratching their heads going, what the heck is Nick talking about? So, and who's he talking to? So thanks everybody for joining us today. I'm Captain Keith from MarineMax in Clearwater, along with Captain Nick here at the St. Pete store. And we've got Alan Carter with us today. So he's got a very, very popular YouTube channel called The Wandering Hillbilly. He's also the director of The Voice, very popular television show, long-running show. And Alan is a BVI expert. So you guys that are watching us, going to join us today. We're kind of going to try to talk about like troubleshooting some stuff, but any questions you've got on the BVI, Aquilas, and just, you know how we roll. So whatever you want to bring, jump in there and we'll try to get to your questions. See April Smith on there from One-Eyed Dog there already.
I see that. Hello, April and Larry.
Hey guys, good seeing you. Thanks for joining.
So welcome to Boating Tips Live, everybody. For those of you that have not joined before, this is a live broadcast. So Keith and I are here, of course, with Alan, and we see the questions as they come in on the side. So anything you guys want to ask us in real time, go ahead, shoot it over. That's what this show is all about. It's about all of the live questions. If we cannot get to your questions live, which we will, if for whatever reason you cannot make it live, that's totally fine. We do go back and watch the film notes and watch the episodes. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, all major streaming platforms such as iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Music, and ask those questions and we'll get to them next week. But today, as Keith had mentioned, we're going to be talking with Alan a little bit. Of course, we never really stay on subject, but we're going to try to. And we're going to be talking about troubleshooting on boats. If you guys have seen any of Alan's videos, he's having fun, right? We've said it before. Boating's recreational. Stuff's not perfect all the time, but boating is easy, as Alan said, and he'll talk to you about before. And you're out there to have fun. And sometimes you need to troubleshoot. When you're at sea, a lot of times, right? There's no plumbers, there's no electricians, there's no mechanics. So you need to know a little bit about that on your own. Of course, down in the BVIs at the MarineMax's fleet, they do have people there, but a lot of times you don't even need that. I mean, how many times just through some basic troubleshooting, guys, you can get to the base of the problem and it's something as simple as a breaker flipped or something not turned on and
cleaning a strainer or whatever. So before we get into that kind of stuff, hey, Alan, how about, so the Wandering Hillbilly?
Yep.
And the whole BVI stuff. How did this morph into this and what got you into chartering boats?
Well, as far as how the YouTube channel developed, I have no clue. it just happened. I go on this ship called Sea Dream Yacht Club. Actually, just got off of it last week. It's this very small cruise ship, like 90 people, right? So we have a lot of friends who do it. So we just love it. And we were going to the BVI a lot. And one night the ship anchored out off of Great Harbor at Jost Van Dyke, and we went into Foxy's. And only a few people came in from the ship, but yet the place was packed. And I kept thinking to myself, where the hell did all these people come from? And I looked out in the harbor, and there it was. And I thought to myself, that's the way to go, because these guys can stay here as long as they want. They can stay here on the ball for 3 days if they want. They can go anywhere else. They can certainly go where that ship that I'm on can't go. And I have to be back on the ship at 10 p.m. They don't have to. So the whole thing about chartering and making your own vacation and being captain of your own cruise ship, so to speak, just really appealed to me, and it made sense. And I've grown up around boats all my life, never really owned one. So when I got back home, I went over to Marina del Rey and took some courses and learned about boats that size and started operating boats that size and started chartering. And because I know a lot about cameras and editing and stuff, I just decided to start filming some of it because of my kids and my nieces, and my mom was with me one time, and that just kind of snowballed into this channel. And people just started asking me a bunch of questions about chartering in the BVI, and I just started answering them honestly. And to be honest, when I first started chartering, I was all over YouTube trying to find answers. How do you pick up a mooring ball in the BVI? Just simple stuff like that, right? And there really wasn't all that many videos out there to look at. So I thought, well, I know I got a camera, I know how to talk. So I started doing it myself, and so it just snowballed into this. So that's kind of the quick story of how I kind of got to this position.
I think a lot of people are intimidated, as far as charters go, opposed to like a cruise ship or something like that. And then you start talking about the big catamarans, the power catamarans. Hey, do I need a captain? Do I need a captain? It's interesting, especially you get over 40 foot, you start getting a 50 foot, like 54s. We'll talk about that in a minute. When you get over the intimidation of the size,
Yeah,
it's really nothing to be scared about. I mean, you can probably talk about how easy it is just with a little bit of know-how, a little bit of confidence, watching your YouTube videos and stuff like that. I don't think that it's something that you need to be worried about quite as much of like, oh man, I'm going to be constantly worried about driving the boat. I'm going to be looking over my shoulder, opposed to just having fun.
Yeah.
Like you clearly do. I've seen the videos.
It's all wide open down there.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is I think and I say this a lot on my channel, it really depends on your personality. It really, really does. Because if you're the type of person who worries a lot, thinks way ahead, tries to plan ahead, it may not be your thing to be a captain of something that's 50 foot like that, at least the first time, right?
Right.
Because you really got to roll with the punches out there. And as far as the BVI is concerned, if you get lost in the BVI, you are one bad navigator.
You get lost in the paper bag then.
There's an island with insight everywhere, right? And so all you got to do is just look at your nav and see where you are. So it's very easy and simple to navigate in the BVI, especially. And I think as far as the size of the vessel, I jumped in on a 51 footer. That was my first charter ever, if you can believe that. But I had been working with some boats of similar size here in Marina del Rey, so I really wasn't worried about that. But again, my personality was I've got my training. I know what to do. If I get in trouble, I got a phone. I can call them. I can call MarineMax. I was with Moorings that first time. I can call them. And they can come out pretty quickly or help you fix it over the phone. So it's really nothing to be that stressed about. I mean, you can really troubleshoot pretty easily and quickly on these boats. I do say, probably more than experience of even being at the wheel, you just need to know how a boat functions, right? You just need to know how important water is and how it functions in the boat, what the bilge pumps are all about. You just need to kind of know basically how a boat works. And once you have that knowledge, you can pretty much figure out what's wrong pretty quickly.
So into that statement you just did there, we just had a question pop up, the last one on there. So can you describe the checkout captain process? So you get an orientation on the boat. Somebody's going to walk through that boat with you and say, keep an eye on this. If this happens, do this, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
It's not just give you keys and say, see you later. Have fun. We'll see you in a week.
Right, and I promise you, I have perfected this little thing. So what I learned the first time I went is we had the whole captain's experience and things like that, and then I took off, and it was on an Aquila 48. And about a half a day in, I thought, oh, well, let me turn on the water maker, and I went over there, and I kind of remembered how to turn it on. So what I learned on that trip is when the person comes on board to show you the entire boat, record the entire thing.
That's a good one.
Your wife, your friend, your husband, or whatever with a phone follow you and record the entire darn thing. Because what happens is little things about how do we turn on the light in that cabin? I can't remember. You go back and you look, and then you can figure out and know exactly how to do it. So they do go through every aspect of it. They talk about navigation. They talk about places not to go because maybe it may be a little too shallow for your draft or something like that. So they kind of give you a full scale once over on the boat. Again, assuming that you know really how a boat works before this starts. And it's very thorough. And you have several phone numbers that you can call in case you need to ask questions again or get in trouble. And so by the time you're ready to go in the morning, the first morning of, you feel pretty darn prepared. And you're right there. And with MarineMax, it's at Nanny Key. And if you need to ask another question, just walk right over there and grab them, bring them back to the boat and ask them another question, right? Just don't take off until you're really, really feeling good about it and feeling confident that you know exactly where you're going and what you're doing and what to do in case of any sort of failure that may or may not happen on that boat.
We got some good questions coming in here, Alan.
Can you scroll back?
Yeah, can we scroll up? Because there's one that only you can answer, because I've never been interviewed, guys, so I don't know. We've got Lee here that says, how far from how far from Laverick to Sabah? I'm taking the MM 443 44 kilo in 2 weeks. So I needed to take the boat to both.
Or
take
land
the
taxi?
boat to both or land taxi? So
Well,
are you familiar with that area?
Yes. Well, first of all, I've been chastised. It's pronounced Saba.
Saba.
Yes, it is.
My bad, guess.
Saba Rock. Well, since Saba is a rock in the middle of the water, you cannot take a taxi to it. You can only get there by boat. So, and that Laverick and Saba are 15 minutes away from each other by boat, literally. So you can do one of two things. What I did is I grabbed a mooring ball at Saba at the end of the day, ate, drank there, had dinner, spent the night there, and then I just motored over to Laverick, tied up at Laverick. Then I got a taxi to go up to the Baths and Hog Heaven or anywhere I wanted to go on Virgin Gorda. Laverick is a great place to centralize from because it's on the main part of Virgin Gorda, the island, and you can get to all those fabulous restaurants over in Spanish Town, Little Dick's Bay, all that area. So Laverick is a good hub. So, and you can absolutely take your dinghy from Laverick to Saba. It's a very long dinghy ride. So and depending on the weather, I don't know if I would actually do that. But moving your boat from Laverick to Saba is so easy. It's 10, 15 minutes and you're done. But you cannot take a taxi to Saba. You can only get to Saba by boat.
Yeah, that Saba Rock restaurant and that whole facility. I mean, it's literally a rock, right? When you guys pulled up, I'm like, damn, look at that. That's cool. You know, it's like this building right there.
Yeah.
Then you guys went up there for dinner, man. It looked pretty cool.
And I tell you, I've been to that place before the hurricane, and man, have they poured money into that thing. It is gorgeous, that place. And it was never that gorgeous before. It was cool, but it wasn't that high class and gorgeous. And so, and the bitter end, I saw a picture from somebody there about a week ago. I did not stop there because they were still in their soft opening. But it is nowhere near the size it used to be. So it's funny when you see these places get rebuilt after hurricane. Some have good financial backing, some didn't. So Saba came back strong, really strong. And I highly recommend everybody stopping at Saba.
So Lee's got another question here as well.
I'm not going to say it. I'll butcher another one.
You don't even need to hit the show on the
Anegada, talking about?
Yeah, you're getting into Anegada.
You know what? Here's another thing about being stressed. If you're a low stress person and you're good with navigation, getting into Anegada is a piece of cake because red, right, return, right? That's all you got to do, and just follow it straight in. And it's simple, and it's on your navigation. It's on the 54. That my 54 had a Marine, and it was there. The other thing I do, and this is a charter thing. I think for charters. Yes, every boat I have has navigation on it, of course, but those boats are individually owned, right? So they're in the charter program. So whatever is on those boats is what the owner ordered, meaning your charter, every charter boat is going to be a little bit different than the other charter boat, just a little bit. So what I do for consistency is I bring my iPad with my Navionics, and that's what I use every single time. Because that way I can program every move I'm going to make before I even leave my home, right? And I've got all my routes programmed and everywhere I want to go so that I just open up my iPad and I just follow my iPad, the route on my iPad. Now, I can't link my iPad to or if I can, I don't know about it. I can't link it to the Raymarine or the Garmin or whatever I have. But that's okay. I just kind of follow the route that I already had on my iPad. That way it stays consistent. And as far as getting into Anegada with Navionics, as you know, you can blow it up and look and see the depths. And so that way your confidence really grows in getting into Anegada. And all you do is just follow the markers and go right in and you'll be fine.
Yeah, and how cool is that ahead of time, right? Like talk about anticipation, you're sitting there at the house a week or two ahead before you go, getting your ducks in a row, and you're sitting there with an avionics app on your iPad.
Yep.
You're getting fired up. You're going, oh yeah, okay, we're going to go from here, then we're going to be there. And you already know ahead of time, exactly what's going to go down.
I will say I can do that because of how many times I've been to the BVI. I've been there so many times that I know the routes, right? And so I'm often asked about, I got asked by someone a couple of weeks ago, what's the best route from Norman to Jost Van Dyke? And well, once you've been there, there really is only one route. But if you look at the map and the navionics, there are several islands you kind of got to go in and around, but there's really only one way to go, right? So it's always good to kind of share these routes and what have you with people if you can. And I'm actually thinking about doing some YouTube videos about routes in the BVI.
Yes.
Right. And so once you kind of know those routes, it's pretty easy.
So while we're on the topic of different routes and places in the BVIs, we got some more questions, but before we get to go to those, I'm going to rapid fire one at you. Okay. We can do this all day. Top 3 experiences or places throughout all of your vacations down in the islands. So
the BVI.
Yep.
Well, I'm an Anegada freak.
Yeah.
And I'm not so disappointed in myself. Every time I go, I only stay one day, which is ridiculous. But I'm on a schedule, and that's the thing about chartering 7 days. You get yourself on a schedule and you got to go, go, go. So if you can do it 14 days or 10 days, I highly recommend that because I'd love to stay more days at Anegada. I just like that primitive sort of feeling of there's no McDonald's, there's nothing like that. It's just, you're on a Caribbean island there, right? So I love that. Anegada is always a highlight to me. Everybody's going to say Jost Van Dyke, and you have to because the experience of White Bay and being at Soggy Dollar and then going to Foxy's that night is truly a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and everybody loves doing it, and it's exactly what everyone says, fantastic, right? I also love Cooper Island, and this is the complete opposite of Anegada. For me, Cooper is just kind of a country club resort feel, and I just love that place, and I've got a rum bar there that I absolutely die for rum. But I don't know, they're kind of my top 3. I could go on and on and on though, because spending a couple of days on Virgin Gorda is amazing too. There's so much to do on Virgin Gorda, so a lot to do. I see a question over here. Can I jump in and just ask one question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Should I plan to fly into St. Thomas or Tortola? All right, this is a great question, especially right now because of COVID. So if you want me to jump into that, I can answer both questions.
Yep.
I have always just flown into St. Thomas simply because it's easy, right? Especially coming from California. Because coming from California, I've got to overnight to Miami or Charlotte, and then 2 hours later, I'm on a plane and I land in St. Thomas. I don't know, like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, right? So now usually I go over to the ferry station. I drink a painkiller. I get on the ferry. It's an hour-long ferry ride. I get there, you check into the BVI, you get into town, you go to Nanny Key or moorings or wherever you're going. So that whole process is the way it is usually. Now, a lot of people will fly right into Beef Island or Tortola. It's a very small plane. My wife hates small planes. So we've just decided always to go to St. Thomas. So you can do one or the other. I think to go to Tortola, though, you got to come out of San Juan. I'm not quite sure. But anyway, the difference is right now, is if you fly into St. Thomas, you're having to do COVID reporting or checking in 2 different countries. So if you fly to St. Thomas, you got to go to USVI travel portal, and you've got to get your green QR code. So what you got to do is you got to get on their website. It's free. You fill out this form. You upload your COVID vaccination card. You upload your negative COVID test that you've just had within 48 hours. And then they email you this green QR code. So when you fly into St. Thomas, you show them your green QR code and you're good to go. If you get a red QR code, which means you didn't pass, that just means you just filled out the form wrong. It happened to me once, and I just didn't fill out the form correctly. So everyone, as long as you have those 2 things to upload, you'll get your green QR code. So then you go into St. Thomas. Then I did not take the ferry this time. This was my trip that I just did in January, because the ferries are not running on regular schedules right now because of COVID. Not everyone's back. So like Roadtown Fest Ferry only goes a couple of days a week. Then another ferry goes the other 2 days of the week. So instead of trying to hit and miss our schedule and make our schedule work with all these ferries, I just decided to hire Island Time water taxi, a private water taxi. And that they picked us up at the airport, put us in a van. We went over to Red Hook, got on a boat right away, went straight to Soper's Hole, which is only 20 minutes from Red Hook. And then we got checked into the BVI right there, and we were done. I mean, it was amazing. Like 30, 40 minutes after we left the airport, we're already at Nanny Key, getting on our boat. Now, it's not cheap. It cost us a little more than $1,000 more, but there's 6 of us, so we could divide it up, right? So, so if you're willing to pay that cost, it's very easy to get into the BVI with these COVID restrictions right now. As far as getting into the BVI, if you're vaccinated, if you're fully vaccinated, you do not have to go through their travel portal or anything like that. You just have to show your proof of your vaccination card and that you've had a test within 48 hours. If you can actually do a test within 5 days, but the problem with that is if it's that this gets confusing. If it's more than 48 hours or less than 5 days, you have to test again when you get to the BVI. And that's a little bit stressful, because what if you made it all that way and all of a sudden it pops out positive, right? So I suggest getting tested 48 hours or less, and that helps you get into the USVI and to the BVI all in one fell swoop. I don't know what you do when you fly into Beef Island, because I haven't done that before, but it sounds to me like you don't have to do the US Virgin part of it because you're coming from San Juan. But I don't know what San Juan's COVID issues are. I don't know if it's the exact same as the US or not right now. So I hope that answers your questions. And I will say that the airport on Tortola are playing all of the Wandering Hillbilly videos on their screens in the airport.
Yeah, there you go. That should answer it.
They didn't ask me for permission, and I don't care.
Hey, look, there I am.
I will say, you know, obviously flying in and out of Beef Island and Tortola is much easier as far as when you return, because as we all know, we got to turn our boats in before 10 a.m. and then we got to get home. Well, if you're taking a ferry or a taxi over to St. Thomas for that 3 p.m. flight that they have, right? You just have to make sure that your ferry situation is all worked out for that. From Beef Island, I mean, you know, it's a 15, 20-minute taxi ride from after you turn your boat in, and you're at the airport. You're ready to go. So there is an advantage to that, but they are very small planes, so you have to be good with that.
Cool. So can you see April Smith's question there to you? How's the markets of Soper's Hole these days? It used to be nicer than Right Way.
I've never been to the market at Soper's Hole. I don't, you know, and I never was there before it got blown away. I will say that I was there. When was I there? Was it end of 18 or 19, first of 19? And they were still struggling to build everything back. But I hear it's great now. And I went into Soper's Hole to check in at BVI, but we were on the other side of the bay there. I didn't actually go into town, so I didn't get over there. They do have an amazing restaurant called Omar's Fusion that I highly recommend to anyone who goes anywhere near Soper's Hole. It's a beautiful, beautiful place.
All right, and then we got Miggs UG. Probably mispronounced that, but what is the best nightlife spot for a Saturday night in the BVI?
Well, let me tell you something, Miggs. Every night is Saturday night in BVI. Don't you know this? It doesn't matter what night you go where. It's a party. I mean, it's a party every night at Foxy's. It's a party every day at Soggy Dollar. Leverett Bay has a barbecue on Friday night that I absolutely adore because the food is amazing. And then they have stilt walkers and you can dance outside and fire throw guys and what have you. They're amazing. And I'm sure their Saturday night is pretty good too. It just depends on what you mean by nightlife. Like, I'm not sure what nightlife means. You know, to me in the BVI, nightlife is a great dinner on the beach and then maybe a DJ playing or something, and that you can kind of bounce your head to and drink another painkiller with. At my age, that's all I want to do. But But for younger kids, like I see a lot of them at Leverick Bay dancing. I see a lot of them at Foxy's, obviously. Do I order cigars in advance? I bring my own, basically, because to me, it's like wine, exactly. You know, they have a lot of cigars at Foxy's that you can buy, that you can stock up on. And there's some on Tortola as well. I think Cooper has some as well, but they're really expensive, like really. I mean, and they're all Cuban, so rightly so, I guess. But I bring my own cigars to answer that question.
We got one more question, and I've got a little game that we're going to play on troubleshooting here. So we got Alan Wilhelm, and he says, I'm looking at a charter in January to February 2023, but I have some people who are worried about water temperature.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
North Carolina, so when would it be better?
Don't worry about it. I just went last week of January, and the water temp was about 82. So
Nice.
if you can't handle that, then you shouldn't go to the BVI. You know, I've been there in June and July as well. The water temp's up around 85, 86, and
Yeah.
the air temperature is hotter as well. Not that much hotter though. So if you're really sensitive to colder water, yes, summer's better. But I also find that the water's rougher in the summer. At least that's what I don't know if that's actually true, but that's just what I have found. So I've been to the Bahamas several times in a charter, and that one I would say in January is a little cooler than I'm comfortable with a little bit, because you have to remember the Bahamas is equal to Florida, right? And the BVI is what, 900 miles south, something like that? So
Yeah.
it's warm down there all the time.
Cool. So let's get into the segment here, Alan and Keith. We're all going to kind of bounce this off of each other. We're going to start talking about troubleshooting, and I've got a few things laid out for us. We'll round robin it a little bit, and we're going to go through our troubleshooting process. Yours is somebody that's been on a good amount of vacations on these larger boats, and of course, Keith and I running boats every day. How our troubleshooting process looks like, and I mean, I'll say it. I'm going to say that 90% of issues that you run into with a little bit of basic knowledge and troubleshooting, it could be like it never even happened, right?
Right.
So I'm going to run a few scenarios by you guys. One, you're out on the hook, right? You're on a mooring. Boat won't start. Initially, okay, you're thinking I'm dead in the water, my vacation's over, it's the end of the world, boat won't start. Alan, I'm going to let you go first, then I'll go to Keith, and then I'll go to myself. What's the first thing that runs through your mind? What's the first thing that you're going to check?
Well, have I let go of the ball yet?
Yeah, you're adrift.
First thing, your checklist goes through your head, right?
Yep.
Did something trip? There's on the moorings, for whatever reason, there's a trip inside a closet of one of the staterooms.
Yep.
The first thing you think of, did somebody open that closet door and trip? You know, so you just kind of go through your checklist of what exactly could be happening here. I once fired up both engines. I think this was on a 48. No, it was on a 50. It was a moorings 51. I fired up both engines. We let the ball go. I pushed the throttle, and I started turning to the left, immediately letting me know that my port engine was not on, or something was happening.
Yeah.
I immediately stopped, and now I'm drifting. And of course, I'm in a mooring field, and I'm like, holy shit. So I just quickly stopped. I turned off both engines. I turned them both back on, and boom, we were going. So the bottom line was, I just didn't real fully turn on. The engine didn't catch on the port side, and I didn't check it before I took off, which was my mistake, right? I should at least throttle it a little bit to make sure I got it, or have somebody look back there and tell me that it's going. So just those sorts of things can happen. And so the plan is don't panic, right? Go through your knowledge, go through your checklist, do logical things, and you should be fine. Can I jump back one quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
Alan just asked a follow-up question to that part, that whatever that question was about. It looked less crowded. Yes, it was less crowded this time because people still aren't fully back from COVID yet. That's why it was less crowded. So anyway, okay, go ahead.
Okay.
So yeah, engine wise, I mean, it's going to be, did you forget to turn your battery switches on, right? You might have, those are keyless, you slide the little cover up and got the on and off buttons and all that. The other thing though, too, is with these Volvos, you've got the little key fob that you can lock out your ignitions. And then something else too, that it's just safety related on the Volvo throttles, Mercruiser too, anything with JPO and all that stuff. You've got a throttle only button.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're at the helm of your boat and the engines are running and you walk away from the helm to go do anything, you're going to go run down to grab a mooring ball, help out, do something, get a gaff, do whatever. I don't care. Get a bucket to wash the boat. If the engines are running, you walk away from the helm, just get in the habit of hitting that throttle only button. Because if somebody happens to be wandering by and trips, falls, bumps, hits those throttles, the boat's not going to go into gear. You're not going to throw somebody off the boat. You're not going to run into something and all that stuff. So on the orientations I do on all these boats, anything that's got the digital electric throttles and stuff like that, there's that throttle only button. I stress that. You guys have all heard me beat a horse to death.
You know what? I would highly recommend you conveying that to the staff down in BVI, because no one's ever said that to me down there.
No, and that's a lesson learned the hard way too. It's
you can fire them up, and you hit throttle only, you can rev them up, make sure they're ready to go and all that stuff. But seriously though, you walk away from it, hit that button.
Yep.
Or shut it down.
Good tip.
good one.
How about you?
What I would do, boat doesn't start. One, don't outsmart yourself, right? Yeah. And I give this lesson on every single orientation I do. You're not dealing with this on the larger boats. On smaller boats, like if we're talking about like outboard motors and stuff, I have done it multiple times. Boat won't start. Check the kill switch, right? How many times have you had people call you on a weekend and say, hey, Captain Keith, Captain Nick, boat won't start, check the kill switch, okay, I'm good. That's the first thing that I check. You get to these larger boats here, and don't laugh about that either.
Make sure you're in neutral.
Yeah. On the larger boats and the smaller boats, it might look like you're in neutral, but if it's not in neutral, your boat's not going to start. And so that's another big thing to check, make sure that you're in neutral. Of course, after that, one of the things that's going through my process, checking your batteries on these larger boats. Any boat you're going to charter, everything is going to be laid out nicely on the breaker panel with your main battery switches, engine batteries, generator batteries, of course, your house battery. If my normal troubleshooting doesn't work, go to that breaker panel. Chances are you'll find something that's not flipped. So that's what it's going to be for me. And
yeah, I mean, it's like down there in the BVI, they're not. You're running a generator. Your generator's going to start up when you leave the dock, and you're not turning the friggin' thing off. So I mean, it's not like you're going to go in and you're flipping over, you're pulling up the docks and plugging into shore power and switching stuff around where you can trip a breaker down in the bilge or something like that on that. But
I had this one incident on a 48, which was a little not trying. I mean, it's just a process you have to go through. So we got the boat in the morning, day one. We left Tortola and went straight to the baths. We picked up a ball at the baths. We took our dinghy, swam in. And when I left, I checked, full of fuel, full of fresh water. We're all good. We spend the day at the baths. We come back, and I walk onto the boat. Bilge pump is working on starboard side, and I have zero fresh water. All right, well, okay, so I'm not going to panic because the bilge pump is on, because the bilge pump's working. Great. Okay. So to me, all right, so put two and two together here. So all my fresh water is gone and the bilge pump is working. I got a leak in my freshwater tank, right? That has to be. So, pull up the floors, look, everything's dry, everything's fine. So the pumps did their job. So, so to me, that was easy. So I just called up MarineMax. Okay, so this is what's happening. What do you think? They're like, well, you got a leak in your freshwater tank somewhere. Great. Okay, I figured it out. So as long as you know how things like that work, and then you come in and just assess the situation, it's pretty simple. So now the unfortunate part is for what it was later that it was, I don't know why, but for whatever, they couldn't come up until the morning to take care of it. So we just had to use the bath. Well, we had plenty of water for for using the bathroom, but we couldn't take showers till the next morning, which was fine. Just jump in the water with a bar of soap and you're good.
There you go.
And so they showed up early the next morning, and sure enough, there was just a little valve that they had to fix, and then it started making water, and it was fine. But that's the kind of sort of troubleshooting you have to do on these charters, especially if your boat is 3 to 5 years old. You know, and I stress this a lot. Look, I know it costs a lot more to do a brand new boat, but they are generally in better shape. Now, look, I'm not dogging MarineMax and moorings or anything like that, because you guys take great care of those boats. But it is what it is, right? It is a 4 or 5 year old boat versus a brand new boat. It's just things break, right?
Yeah.
So if you can spend the extra money to get the newer boats, we had one instance on one boat where just for the number of people we had, we just pulled too much AC on the generator at night, and when we got onto a newer boat, didn't have that problem.
Yeah.
So you know, it's every boat's different, and so you just kind of have to troubleshoot depending on what boat you are and what the situation is.
Got another situation here that we're going to round robin again, and you kind of already hit on it. It's hot, summertime. Your AC is not turning on. Now everybody's starting to freak out. It's hot. What's the first thing you go to? I'll start it off, okay? Because nothing. The AC is broken in my house right now. By the way, I get it. I gotta go home and get the AC. But
What do you call the AC repairman?
well, you call the AC repairman, which is not. There's not always one out at sea, okay? And you don't want to spend a hot night on the boat.
Are you
That's
on?
a very
Are you on
easy-
generator or shore power?
Let's say you're on generator, but the generator is running. AC is not running. What's going to go through my mind? Okay, how do all these systems work on a lot of these boats? It's a water cooled system with a glycol system, right? The only thing that's going to make those air conditioners, in my mind, there's two things I'm going to check, and it's going to fix it every single time, unless of course something actually is wrong, which is usually not the case. You're going to check your glycol levels. You're going to check your strainers. You probably don't deal with the strainer issue as much down in the BVIs because the water's so clear. Up here, anyways, your AC is not pumping. There's no water pumping. Pop that strainer open. Chances are it's got some mud in it. So that's one thing I go to. Second thing I go to, check the glycol level, because the glycol is either going to heat up or cool down that water. And at that point, that's, when, okay, it's blowing, but it's not cold, or it's blowing, but it's not hot if you want heat. Those are the two things I'm going to go in. And then you lead into a situation like you were in with the freshwater tank. Okay, is it a hose clamp somewhere? Do I need some plumber's tape or something like that? That's my troubleshooting. What about you? So you mentioned shore power or generator. Let's say that you're on the hook out there, your AC kicks off. Where do you go? How do you handle that? You get everybody cool in the boat.
Well, same exact thing you just talked about. Usually I go straight to water issue.
Yeah.
I've done the Bahamas a couple of times, and inevitably and invariably in the Bahamas, you're in incredibly shallow water. And so I check all of my filters at night, over and over constantly in the Bahamas, that you don't really need to do in the BVI. So it kind of depends on where you are, but that would be the first thing I would check. Breakers, I would check that too.
Yeah.
I'm still learning about things like this, so I'm not sure exactly past that checklist what I would do. Next thing I would do is I'd call whoever I'm chartering from and try to figure that out. So yeah, I think we had once in the Bahamas, our generator pretty much died in the middle of the night, and of course along with it with the air conditioning, and I was just too tired to do it in the middle of the night. First thing I got up in the morning, and sure enough, the filter was just full of sand. The whole thing was. So we just flushed the whole thing out and got it working again. So that was easy to troubleshoot on that one. So generally, that's generally the culprit in that situation, especially if you're in shallow water.
Yeah, good water flow, whether it's coming through the seacocks or coming through the strainer, whatever it is, they're gonna need a lot of flow, and you can hear it when it's on too. I mean,
Can I answer this question that Rob Braidwood just asked?
Yep.
I can't see it.
Where is it? Scroll back down.
He said most
there you
MarineMax indicate you should need to get fuel during a normal 7-day charter. But in Alan's video, he got one. Okay, well, the reason why I got fuel on day 5 is I'm the kind of guy who, when my fuel gets past 3/4 full and I see a gas station, I stop anyway. And this is from my off-roading days. I've been an off-roader for many, 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 many years. And I am trained, if I see a gas station, fill it up before I go out in the middle of nowhere. That's just something I do. So that's why I did. Could I have made it the entire 7 days without refueling? Yes. I would have been down to a quarter or less. So what I did is I filled up on day 5 because I was right there and it was easy to do. And so I ended up paying for fuel at 2 different stops rather than 1 stop at the end. That was a preference of mine. You don't actually have to do that unless you're really motoring around all over the place for those 7 days.
Casey's got a good question here. Looks like they're heading down there next week. So I got a feeling this is going to be dependent on wind direction. But how rough are the mooring fields? Next week shows 20-mile-an-hour winds. For our charter, do you expect that we may have to be flexible on where to moor?
I don't know that you'll have to be flexible on where you moor, because most ball fields are in bays that are okay, and the 20-mile-an-hour won't affect you that much. What you may have to be flexible on are your routes, and depending on, and I'm honest about this, it depends on the stomach of your crew, right? So 20 miles an hour can be a little rough out there. It's not that rough, but you can make it less rough by taking a shorter route, right? So you just have to kind of figure out, do I really want to fly to Anegada on the day where the wind is the highest? Because Anegada, you're in the middle, you're literally out where you can't see land. It's the only island in the BVI that's that way, right? And and it's an hour and a half to get there. So if you're doing this the whole time, your crew may not like you very much by the time you get there, unless you changed your schedule to go out there when it calms down a little bit. So I think it's more about changing and being flexible with your routes and where you're going, as far rather than the mooring balls. All the mooring balls, like I said, are pretty well protected. Anegada's not really that well protected, but you'll be fine. You'll be fine picking up balls with those kind of winds.
Anegada's an hour and a half away from the other stuff.
It depends on
That's
how
all
fast. Depends how fast.
I'm
I mean,
with you, man. I'd be there. Just
I went 16 knots and I got there in about an hour and 10, something like that. Hour and 5, maybe. I don't know.
Alan's got a great question on here too. If this is your first trip, would you have any reservations taking 4 couples? A 48 boat can get a little small, if you know what I mean. We're all good friends and we want to stay that way.
Well, look, just choose your friends wisely. There's nothing worse than being on a boat for a week in close quarters and, the guy's obnoxious or the woman's obnoxious or, just pick your friends wisely and know you're going to be living in a small house with them for 7 days. So you just have to pick people that you're really, really great friends with. I will say on a 48, that size, you can get away from everyone. You really can. There are plenty of spaces, and you can just go down to your stateroom if you want to. But I don't find, and the other thing is that you're not really on the boat that much, really. Right. I mean, think about it. You get to your destination, there's something to do because you're there to get off the boat and go do it, right? So you're away from the boat, and then you come. What happens to us, at least, is we get there in the morning or noon or something. We go do our activities. We come back around 4 or 5. Cocktail hour, a little swimming. Everybody takes a shower, and we go to dinner. Or you eat on board, or you go to dinner somewhere. I like going to dinner every night, so we never eat on board. We go to dinner, so you're off the boat again, and then you're back, and by that time, it's time to have a nightcap and go to bed. So, it's not really like you're spending a hell of a lot of time cramped up on the boat with all 8 of you.
I mean, even if you are on the boat, that 48,
it's pretty big.
Somebody could be in the galley, somebody could be sitting at the bar, somebody else is sitting back on the swim platform, somebody else is up on the bridge. I mean, you can get away. Couples can go have their own, time together and all that stuff. I mean, it's that catamaran. That's the beauty of it, is the beam on that thing and just how much room you do get. And with the 48, with 4 couples, everybody's going to have the same stateroom, the same head, all that stuff. You don't have to argue about, well, who gets the master, who gets this one and that, and flip quarters for all that stuff.
Yeah. On the 54, whoever's the captain gets the main master.
There you go.
One other thing about 8 people, though, I will say the dinghy ride can get a little adventurous because It's
That's
not
Alan's next question.
it's not a big dinghy, right? And you have to be honest with this question as well. How big are the people on your boat? Okay. So if you're normal size, 8 people, you'll be fine. A little cramped, but fine. If we have some people who are a little larger, taller, bigger, what have you, you may need to take 2 trips, right?
Yeah.
And it also depends on how comfortable everyone is with 8 people weighing that dinghy down that much, and how far are you going, right? If you're just going right there, Sabre Rock is 100 yards away, that's fine. But if it's a little bit of a trek, right, to get there with 8 people, is that too far? And do we all feel comfortable? And at night, 8 people weighing down a dinghy, right? And as
Yeah.
they swim well, so all these questions you kind of have to analyze and think about as far as your group is concerned. With 8 people, the only thing I would say that you may want to consider is the dinghy ride. If it's far and people are uncomfortable, maybe you take 2 trips.
So I got one more question for you, and I wanted to ask it now because I wanted you to have a little bit of time to answer it. You be honest. What is your craziest, wildest vacation story while being down there? What's the first thing that comes to mind? Craziest thing that's happened.
What do you mean?
His buddy Ron busting his head jumping off the Willie T.
No, that's not the craziest. Let me see. There are 2 things, and this one of them's actually silly. The other one was my fault, but turned out to be funny. We were in the Bahamas, and we were coming back on the dinghy to the boat, and I had my daughter, her friend, my niece, her friend, and my mom. So, and I was the only dude. So we're coming back, and everybody's a little tipsy because we just had a few at dinner and what have you. And we're flying along, got the flashlight up front, everything's fine. I see the boat, everything's great. All of a sudden, this fish, I mean, like this size, jumps in the dinghy. You have never heard screaming like this ever. And it was so hysterical that I couldn't even steer the damn dinghy. I was laughing so hard. And then no one wanted to touch the dinghy. And everybody's hanging off, making sure my mom doesn't fall off. Everybody else is all the girls are about to jump in the water because there's a fish flopping around in the dinghy.
There's probably fish in the water.
But I couldn't film it because it was at night. I didn't have my GoPro with me. But anyway, I always, when I think about chartering, people ask me what crazy things can happen. Things like that can happen. And that was hysterical. It was just wonderful. Another thing that I think about, which is a little more on the downside, but this is a learning experience. I went into, in the Bahamas again, I went into Allen's Key, I think it was, where the iguanas are, and turned my boat around. I was going to drop the hook. I dropped the hook, and you do your calculations in your head, how much hook to put out, how much chain to go, and I did it, and settled in and went over to Allen's Key, played with the iguanas, came back. The tide had gone down, and the back of the boat was sitting on sand. It's like, oh man, that's the stupidest thing I've ever done in my life. I just didn't even check to where I floated to after I put the hook. So when people ask me, to me, that's crazy because that's just a dumb thing to do. But it was easy. I mean, just wait a few hours and boom, you're fine. And we actually just pushed it off with our dinghy and we were ready to go.
Yeah.
So, it's just things like that kind of happen every now and then that you think, well, that's stupid, or that's crazy, or that's funny. So when you go to the BVI and you charter, though, you'll be able to list dozens of things that answer that question, because everything you're doing is so fresh and original and crazy. Who rides scooters on a Caribbean island every day? Well, that's what you do at Anegada. So it's just a lot of fun things like that you don't do. And every person I've ever taken on one of these charters, whether it's Bahamas or BVI, and it's the first time done, every single one of them say the exact same thing. This was a trip of a lifetime. And because the experience that you get on one of these charters, doing what you get doing in the way that you're doing it, whenever you want to do it, you're in charge of your own boat, right? It's just an amazing experience, and everyone truly thinks it's a trip of a lifetime.
Yeah, man, and you do a phenomenal job documenting it all. That's maybe if the lady behind the curtain can post the links to your channel, where can we find you and follow your trips?
Just you go on YouTube and just search the Wandering Hillbilly, and then boom, I'll pop up, and then you'll see all my videos, and you can just watch them all there. You can make comments. I answer just about every comment, at least I try to.
Cool.
You can follow me on Instagram, Wandering Hillbilly. Facebook, I'm just me, Alan Carter. You can follow me there. And then I try to post one every week, every other week, something like that, just updates. I'm going to do another update on COVID whenever it changes again, so I'll do that as well. And then I periodically will make a video about answering questions for your charter, so I'll do that as well.
Cool.
So that, and then the exciting part is I've talked about this. I've ordered a 54 from you guys.
Yeah, man.
I'm hoping to have it by early middle May. That's the hope. And so you'll start seeing adventures from that as well, because it's going to be kind of the next phase of our lives here, where the kids are grown and it's time to do the next phase.
Good for you, man. When's your next trip?
Great question.
It'll be on your bill.
Well, yeah, I was going to go to spring training, but we know how that's going at the moment.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to do that. I am taking Sea Dream Yacht Club, the ship I was on. I'm taking it across the ocean end of April. We're taking off from San Juan, Puerto Rico, and going across the Atlantic to Barcelona. And then my wife's going to fly out and meet me, and then we're going to do another little tour there, just the two of us. So that's kind of a little 3-week European thing that my wife are going to do at the end of April, 1st of May, and then we're going to come home and get our new 54, hopefully. Oh, there, she just put the links on the conversation there. Great. You guys still there? Hello, you guys are frozen. You guys are gone. Oh, you can hear me. Okay. Well, you know what? I'll answer this. If you guys can hear me, I'll answer a couple of questions here. Does the black water tank last for the whole week? Absolutely not. No. On my 54, I had 6 folks on, and I dumped it maybe 3 times. Now I will say on the Aquilas, it's so much easier to dump the black water than on the moorings. Oh my gosh, there's no way to tell you. It's so much easier. On the 44 and the 48, you can dump it on a switch that's at the control panel inside the salon. On the 54, you can do it from the helm, which is incredibly convenient. With the moorings, you actually have to physically go down into a cabin, pick up the floor, lay down on your belly, reach around and grab a handle, a switch, flip it, let it run for 15 to 20 seconds, then it's a whole Magilla. And if the boat's doing this, it's really difficult to go down there and do that. So the kilos are much easier to dump with. Of course, you have to be out a couple of miles, as we all know, before you do that. Okay, so I'm this is my own show now, apparently. Welcome to my show. I've always wanted my own show with no producers and no network, so here it is. Let me see some other questions I can answer for you. Is it an issue to not have nav lights for the dinghy? I would not go out on a dinghy without a light, simply because, like in the BVI around Virgin Gorda in the North Sound, there are boats flying all over the place, even at night. Like hotel boats and super yachts that are out there. They have these big boats that are flying, so they could not see you so easily. So no, you always want to be well lit up on your dinghy at night, going both directions, always. Okay, going back up, just reading some more questions. The thing about the less crowded on this trip, at Leverick Bay, the Friday night barbecue was a lot less crowded this time too, and I think for two reasons. Well, three. It was raining all day, so I think that deterred people. Secondly, not as many people have come back because of COVID, and third, it will be more crowded in the summer. And the first time you saw me take a video of it, that was, I think, July, and this obviously was January. So I think it's far more crowded in the summer months, I'm guessing. We answered the water temp question. Let me go back to the top. Maybe there's some I forgot. The other thing is, I was asked, how do you get from Cane Garden up to the North Sound? Oh, no, that's not the question. The question was, can I get back to Nanny Key from Joost Van Dyke in time to return my boat at 10 a.m. on the last day? So my answer was, yes, you can do that. You just got to get up a lot earlier and get it over there, right? Because again, you never know what can happen on any time you're going from one place to the next. But it's a little bit of a trek to go from Joost Van Dyke all the way around over to Nanny Key. Normally, I spend my last night at Norman or Cooper, just because it's easy, right? It's less than an hour and it's right there, right? I'll just zip across the bay and you're there. Soper's Hole would be very close to it as well if you wanted to spend your last night there. The baths are fairly close to it, so that's okay to spend the last night there. I also will say, we checked in at Scrub Island on our last trip, and that's an incredible thing to do. I just love doing that because it's just great to be at a resort, and you feel like you're at a home marina. And it's just
Hey, Nick.
But I can't log back in, so he'll just have to.
Oh, I thought you.
I can hear you now, guys.
All right.
Never mind.
Here, no, Keith, you can edit it out.
We're back on.
So we could do it like last week. Here.
Where do you like to provision the BVI for food? Oh, listen, I love Bobby's Supermarket. And Bobby has a direct link with MarineMax where they'll deliver it straight to, and then MarineMax will also send you a link to their provisioning list, right? And the reason why I like Bobby's is their provisioning list is just very, very clear as to what it is you're ordering. Hey guys, I just took over the show, sorry.
Thank you.
So their provision list is very, very clear, and you can have it delivered wherever you are. The question was asked to me, will they deliver it on another island? I don't know that answer, but call them and ask. I don't know. And the other thing about them is they're very good with follow-up. For example, we landed in St. Thomas this last trip, and I got an immediate text from them saying the champagne that the girls on board ordered wasn't available. We have these two as a backup. Which one would you like? I just thought that was really good service, and a lot of times service in the BVI can be very, island time type service. You know what I mean? So I thought they're always very, very sharp, and they're on the ball, and they take care of things. And when we got to our charter, the stuff was already there. The refrigerator stuff was already in the refrigerator. The beer was already in the ice chest with ice. They put it all in there for us. It was great. So I highly recommend Bobby's Supermarket. They're great for provisioning. How many trips have I been on MarineMax? I've been on about 4. Have I done 4 MarineMaxes? 3 or 4? Can't remember. Maybe 4. I don't know.
Good save, Alan. Thanks, man. You gotta see what's going on behind the scenes back here behind us.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, listen, I do live TV for a living, so I know how to improvise. Trust me.
Well, cool, man. We'll have to have you back on again sometime, and look forward to your delivery of the 54. You're going to be extremely impressed with what you do. I mean, you know that too.
I am, and I've got so much to learn. And April will let you know. I've already emailed her like a million times, asking her questions and stuff like that. I have
she gets a ton of questions.
I'll send you some pictures. I'll send you some pictures of her when she's sitting on the ship.
Great, that'd be good. So you're going to see a lot of video of me learning how to do this, but I'm so excited about it, and so excited about this phase of our lives, and it's going to be fun.
Congratulations,
Congrats, man. It's awesome.
I'm thrilled that I'm doing it in an Aquila with you guys. For 3 years, I looked high and low as to what kind of boat to get. And I was not sold on Aquila at the very beginning. I really wasn't. And as a matter of fact, when Robertson Leopard came out with the 43, I'm sorry, the 53, which was at the Miami Boat Show 2 years ago. I saw that and I thought, wow, that's kind of something I'm looking at. And I walked over and saw Raul, and I was like, Raul, did you see the 53 over at Leopard? He looks at me and goes, it's nothing compared to the 54.
It doesn't compare.
And I was like, well, prove it, because they didn't have one at that point, right? The first 54 didn't show up until a year ago, right? Yep. And so the more I kept looking at the specs and the pictures and the animation and stuff, it just kind of seemed right for me. And then when I actually saw it last year, I was like, heck yeah.
You sold the first one, right? Yeah, Nick sold the first 54.
I'm number one. Spent a lot of wheel time on that boat. And I remember, we got to wrap this up here soon, but I'll tell a quick story. I remember I picked up the buyers on the tarmac at the airport, and through renderings to actual pictures, we had never seen the boat before. It was a big jump for both of us. So I picked them up. We went and saw it, and I'll never forget the rest of my life there at Clearwater Marina, looking, they put them on a T-dock right there, right? Mm-hmm. Looking and seeing that enclosed sky bridge, and just like, man, like how emotional it was, and putting your hands on it, seeing it, touching it, feeling it for the first time after the long wait. I went back, I told all the other salespeople that had Aquilas on order. At that point, it was 14. Now it's up to 80. I said, guys, you've seen the pictures, you've seen the renderings. Lead confidently with all your buyers with boats on order, because the boat is all it's hyped up to be, and then some. And and you're gonna have that same experience, and that's really, really cool.
I can't wait to have it. It'll be great.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to it, man, and I want to thank you for joining us here today. And of course, want to thank everybody for the good questions on YouTube and Facebook. Of course, just because the live stream's ending, feel free to drop them. We'll get to them. Make sure to check Alan out, and we'll see you guys next month.
Thanks, guys, for your time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.